Daniel and Ruth Akinwale's love story was one many people admired. They met in church, where Daniel sang in the choir and Ruth taught children during Sunday school. Their friendship grew slowly, gently, like something meant to last. By the time Daniel proposed, no one was surprised. Their wedding day was filled with joy. Drums sounded, people danced, and elders prayed long prayers over them. "Your home shall be filled with laughter," one woman prophesied. "You will carry children that will make you proud," another said. Ruth held on to those words like treasure. The first year of marriage was peaceful. They laughed often, prayed together, and dreamed about the future. Ruth imagined a child running through the house, calling her Mama. Daniel imagined teaching his son how to pray. But months passed. No child came. At first, Ruth stayed hopeful. "God's time is the best," she would say, smiling bravely. But every month that ended in disappointment chipped away at her heart. By the second year, the question started. "Any good news? Have you tried this doctor? Maybe it's spiritual." Ruth began to avoid family gatherings. At night, she would lock herself in the bathroom and cry quietly so Daniel wouldn't hear. Daniel noticed the change. He held her, encouraged her, prayed with her, but even he felt helpless. By the third year, the whispers became louder. Daniel should marry another wife. A woman without a child cannot hold a home. Those words cut deep. One night, Ruth knelt beside the bed, tears streaming down her face. "God, what have I done wrong?" she whispered. "If you won't give me a child, please don't let my marriage break." Daniel woke up and saw her shaking. He knelt beside her and cried too. It was that night the idea of adoption entered their hearts. At first, Ruth resisted. "Will I truly love a child that isn't mine?" she asked. Daniel answered gently. "Love is not in blood. Love is in the heart." They prayed about it for months. Then one Saturday, they visited an orphanage. Children ran around laughing and shouting. But in one quiet corner sat a little girl. She wasn't playing. She wasn't crying. She was just waiting. Her name was Amara. She had lost her parents in an accident and had moved between homes that never lasted. When Ruth knelt in front of her and opened her arms, Amara froze. She had been hugged before and abandoned after. Slowly, she stepped forward and held Ruth tightly. Ruth felt something break inside her. "This is my child," she whispered. Daniel knew it too. The adoption process wasn't easy, but months later, Amara came home. That first night, Amara refused to sleep alone. "Please don't leave me," she whispered, gripping Ruth's wrapper. Ruth kissed her forehead. "I promise." For 2 beautiful years, that promise stood strong. The house came alive again. Ruth braided Amara's hair every morning. Daniel helped her with homework. Neighbors admired how happy they looked. People said, "This child healed their home." And then, everything changed. One morning, Ruth felt dizzy, then sick, then weak. At the hospital, the doctor smiled. "Congratulations, madam, you are pregnant." Joy exploded. Phones rang, songs were sung, Thanksgiving filled the house. But while everyone celebrated, Amara stood quietly in the corner, watching Ruth smile at her growing belly. That night, Amara asked softly, "Mama, will you still love me when the baby comes?" Ruth smiled quickly. "Yes, of course." But deep inside her heart, something shifted, and that shift would soon destroy everything. The joy of Ruth's pregnancy did not fade quickly. For weeks, the house was filled with prayers, visitors, and congratulations. Ruth glowed with happiness. Daniel could not stop smiling. Everyone said God had finally remembered them. But beneath the joy, something dark was quietly growing. At first, it was almost unnoticeable. Ruth became tired easily. She complained of body pains and nausea. Amara was told to give her space.
"Mama is tired," Ruth would say. "Go and play." Amara obeyed without complaint. She watched Mama from a distance, hoping the old warmth would return, but it didn't. As Ruth's belly grew bigger, her patience grew smaller. Little things irritated her. Amara's voice sounded too loud. Her presence felt unnecessary. "Why are you always following me?" Ruth snapped one afternoon. Amara froze. "I just wanted to help, Mama." "I didn't ask for help," Ruth replied sharply. Daniel noticed the change but brushed it aside. "It's pregnancy stress," he told himself. "She will be fine." But Amara felt it deeply. She stopped asking questions. She stopped laughing freely. She learned to stay quiet. When Ruth gave birth to a baby boy, the house exploded with celebration. Drums were beating, songs of thanksgiving filled the air, relatives poured in with gifts, wrappers, and envelopes of money. Daniel carried his son proudly. "My heir," he said with joy. Ruth held the baby possessively, afraid of even the wind touching him. Amara stood by the doorway watching. No one called her to join the celebration. That was the day everything truly changed. After the visitors left, Ruth looked around the house and sighed. "Amara," she called. Amara ran in happily. "Yes, Mama." "From today, you will sleep near the kitchen. The baby needs space." Amara's smile faded. "But Mama, Do you want to suffocate my child?" Ruth shouted. Amara swallowed her words and nodded. That night, she slept on a thin mat near the kitchen door. She cried quietly until sleep took her. From that day, Amara was no longer treated like a daughter. She became a helper. "Amara, fetch water. Amara, wash plates. Amara, sweep the compound again." If she made a mistake, Ruth shouted. If she asked questions, Ruth accused her of jealousy. "Don't come near my baby. I know your type." Daniel began coming home late. Work was stressful, and the baby demanded his attention. Whenever Amara tried to speak to him, Ruth would interrupt. "She's lying. She wants attention. She's jealous of my child." Slowly, Daniel stopped listening, and Amara stopped speaking. Her clothes became old, her food became leftovers. Sometimes she slept hungry. At night, she would whisper prayers. "God, please help me. I don't understand what I did wrong." But heaven was silent. One afternoon, Ruth returned from the market angry. The baby was crying loudly. "Amara!" she shouted. Amara rushed in. "Yes, Mama. Why is my child crying? What did you do?" "I didn't touch him," Amara replied in fear. She slapped her. "Liar!" Amara fell to the ground, shocked and trembling. That night, Daniel was not home. Ruth locked the door and beat Amara until her arms ached. "You are not my child," she screamed. "You were just a mistake." Those words broke something inside Amara. That night, Amara did not cry. She sat quietly staring at the wall. When everyone slept, she packed her few clothes into a small nylon bag, one dress, one sandal, nothing else. She opened the gate gently. The night was dark. Rain began to fall. Amara stepped into the unknown. She walked without direction, guided only by fear and pain. Every sound made her jump. Dogs barked in the distance, thunder roared above her. Her feet hurt, her stomach was empty, but she kept walking. By morning, she collapsed near a small roadside church. An elderly woman was sweeping the compound when she saw her. "Jesus!" she screamed. She rushed toward the child. "Whose child are you?" Amara tried to speak, but fainted. The woman's name was Mrs. Okori. She called her husband immediately. They carried Amara inside and cleaned her wounds. When Amara finally woke up, she cried uncontrollably. Between sobs, she told her story. Mrs. Okori held her tightly and wept. They had lost their only child years back, and after that loss, they never conceived again. As Mrs. Okori listened, she whispered, "God, is this how you answered us?" They took Amara to the pastor, who involved the authorities and ensured everything was done properly. Amara stayed with them. For the first time in a long while, she slept without fear. Meanwhile, back at Ruth's house, morning came and Ruth didn't see Amara. At first, she didn't care. "She's probably outside," she muttered. Hours passed. Daniel returned from work and asked, "Where is Amara?" Ruth shrugged. "I don't know." Fear entered Daniel's heart. They searched everywhere. Neighbors shook their heads. No one had seen her. That night, Ruth could not sleep. For the first time, guilt whispered to her. But pride refused to let her listen. She told herself, she is not my responsibility anymore. But deep inside, she knew something precious had left her house forever.
Life began again for Amara in a way she never imagined. The Okori household was quiet, gentle, and full of warmth. Mr. Okori was soft-spoken and patient. Mrs. Okori was motherly in every sense of the word. From the first day Amara stayed with them, they made one thing clear: you are safe here. Those words alone healed wounds no medicine could touch. At first, Amara struggled to believe it. She flinched whenever someone raised their voice. She woke up crying at night, expecting to be beaten for mistakes she never made. Mrs. Okori would rush to her side, hold her close, and whisper prayers until she slept again. Slowly, Amara learnt what real love felt like. They enrolled her in school. On her first day, Mrs. Okori braided her hair carefully and packed her lunch with care. When Amara returned home smiling, the Okoris cried tears of joy. She began to thrive. Amara was intelligent and kind. Teachers noticed her dedication. She studied hard, not because she was forced to, but because she wanted to succeed. Years passed quietly. Amara grew into a beautiful young woman, calm, compassionate, and strong. She never forgot where she came from, but she no longer allowed the past to define her. When it was time to choose a career, Amara chose nursing. She said, "I want to heal people. I know what pain feels like." The Okoris supported her fully. On the day Amara graduated, Mrs. Okori held her certificate and cried like a child. "Our daughter," she said proudly. And for the first time, Amara believed it fully. Meanwhile, Ruth's life slowly fell apart. At first, everything seemed fine after Amara left. Ruth focused all her attention on her biological son. She protected him fiercely, watching his every movement, afraid the world would harm him. But the joy did not last. The boy became sick often. Small illnesses refused to heal. Hospital visits became frequent. Medical bills piled up. Daniel worked harder, but money slipped through their fingers like water. Peace left their home. Arguments replaced laughter. Blame replaced love. Ruth blamed Daniel. Daniel blamed Ruth. And in the middle of it all, guilt knocked quietly on Ruth's heart. At night, she began to dream. She saw Amara standing in the rain, crying. She heard her calling, "Mama, Mama." Ruth would wake up shaking, but pride kept her silent. Years passed. Ruth tried many times to conceive again. Nothing happened. Doctors shook their heads. "We're sorry." The words cut deeper than any insult ever had. Ruth began to understand, too late, that she had rejected a blessing. One afternoon, Ruth rushed her son to the hospital during another medical emergency. She sat in the waiting area, exhausted, broken, praying silently. "God, please help my child," she whispered. "I can't lose him." Footsteps echoed down the hallway. A nurse walked towards her, calm and confident, dressed neatly in uniform. Ruth looked up. Their eyes met. Time froze. It was Amara. Grown, beautiful, peaceful. Ruth's heart stopped. The nurse stopped walking. Amara recognized her instantly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ruth stood up shakily and collapsed to her knees. "I'm sorry," she cried loudly, drawing attention from everyone around. "I destroyed what God gave me. Please forgive me." People watched in silence. Amara knelt down and held her hands. "I forgave you a long time ago," she said gently. Those words broke Ruth completely. Amara helped Ruth to her feet and attended to her son professionally, without bitterness, without anger. Ruth watched her in awe. This was the child she once called nothing. After the treatment, Ruth tried to speak again. "Can I see you again?" she asked. Amara smiled sadly. Life has moved on. And it had. That evening, Ruth returned home and sat quietly. For the first time, she accepted the truth. God had given her a child to love, and she failed. But God, in His mercy, did not abandon the child. He simply placed her where she would be cherished. Final moral lesson. Not blood does not define love. Responsibility does. Never mistreat anyone God places in your care. A child is not a replacement. A child is a blessing. God never forgets kindness, and he never ignores cruelty.